This is part two of my series on Lucy Letby, the innocent woman who was accused of and convicted for the murders of 7 infants and the attempted murders of 7 more on the neonatal ward at the Countess of Chester Hospital in Chester, England. After her conviction in 2023, Dr. Xu Li, a top neonatal expert from Canada, came forward because he learned that the paper he wrote in 1989 about air embolism in infants was used in the case against her, and that the narrative built around her that she was a murderer who used air embolism as a weapon was developed from his paper. And so he became curious about how his paper was used, no more than that. But once he looked into it, he realized that his theory had been completely misunderstood and misused, and that the main expert witness who used his paper, Dowie Evans, did not understand at all what air embolism was. There were many aspects to this, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but the main thing is that Dowie Evans was accusing her of venous air embolism based on Xu Li's paper. But in fact, Xu Li's paper was about arterial air embolism, which has completely different signs and completely different ways of showing in an infant. And so it completely disproved the air embolism theory. And so because of this, Xu Li became very concerned about the safeness of the conviction against Lucy Letby. So he gathered a panel of 14 experts, neonatal experts, all around the world, so that they could do blind investigations about the deaths of the infants to make sure that the convictions were based on true evidence, that it wasn't fantastical evidence created by one man, which it was. But the way Xu Li ran the expert panel, he was the chair, and he assigned one case to 2 experts. And the 2 experts would each separately decide the case, not discuss it, have no connection whatsoever, and then come back with their findings. And if they found the same cause of death or cause of collapse, then that would be the agreed upon cause. But if they differed, they would bring in a third expert, and the third expert would kind of break the tie, if you will. I think that rarely happened, but it was just a fail-safe so that they could be sure they had no confirmation bias, no group think. And so they did this. They spent a long time free of charge, pro bono, to put their effort and time into this to see what actually happened. And what they found was that there were no murders, that they were all natural deaths based on genetic influences, based on poor health, and based on poor medical care. So now I'm going to show you what Lucy Letby was accused of by the prosecution and by Dowie Evans, their main expert witness. And next to that, I'm going to show you what this international panel of top neonatal experts around the world found had happened with these infants. And you decide when you see this side by side. Just to say, there are 17 babies that I am going to go through, but Lucy was not found guilty on all of the counts. She was found guilty on 7 counts of murder and 7 counts of attempted murder. But I'm still going to go through them all because she did have to sit through a court case where she was accused of these things that she didn't do. So we will still discuss them. And this is also to say that, and this is an obvious thing, but I want to note it, that I feel incredible compassion both for these infants and for the parents who lost them and who suffered with their collapses and who still have to handle the ramifications of those collapses to this day, some of them. I send great love and healing and sorrow to them that they had to experience this and that they were put through this sham of a court case because they don't deserve it. So I just wanted to say that before I go through these very painful things that, if any of them happened to see, might be hurtful. But I still think it's important to put these things side by side for people like me who are not medical experts, who don't really know what the details are until they see them side by side. So here we go. We'll start with child A. The prosecution suggested that child A was murdered by injected air into the bloodstream, air embolism, causing a fatal collapse. The international panel of top neonatal experts found that natural death caused by thrombosis, which is a blood clot, was the cause of death, not air embolism. Child B, the prosecution alleged that attempted murder by injected air into the bloodstream was the cause of collapse. But of course, the baby survived. The international panel of top neonatal experts found that this was a natural collapse from thrombotic emboli related to a central line, possibly worsened by maternal antiphospholipid syndrome. Child C, the prosecution accused Lucy Letby of murder by injected air into the stomach via the nasogastric tube, leading to a fatal collapse. The international panel of top neonatal experts found that natural death occurred from acute small bowel obstruction with prolonged, inadequate resuscitation, and that death followed withdrawal of support. Child D, the prosecution alleged that Lucy Letby murdered child D by injected air into the bloodstream. Again, air embolism. The international panel of top neonatal experts found that this was a natural death stemming from systemic sepsis, pneumonia, and disseminated intravascular coagulation, or DIC. Child E, the prosecution alleged that child E was murdered by injected air into the bloodstream, allegedly causing internal bleeding and fatal collapse. The international panel of top neonatal experts found that natural death occurred by massive gastrointestinal hemorrhage, likely from intrauterine hypoxia, related ulceration, or a congenital vascular lesion. Child F, the prosecution alleged attempted murder by insulin poisoning, causing profound hypoglycemia. The international panel of top neonatal experts found that it was a natural collapse caused by prolonged hypoglycemia due to sepsis, prematurity, and poor medical management, not insulin poisoning. Child G, the prosecution alleged attempted murder by overfeeding with excessive milk through a feeding tube on multiple occasions, causing repeated collapses. The international panel of top neonatal experts found natural collapse caused by vomiting, collapse due to infection, possibly enterovirus, and not overfeeding or injected air. Child H, the prosecution alleged attempted murder by air embolism on 2 occasions. In this case, the jury reached no verdict. The international panel of top neonatal experts found that natural collapse was caused by deteriorations due to suboptimally managed tension pneumothorax. No evidence of deliberate tube displacement. In other words, there was also an accusation that the baby's air tube had been removed. There was no evidence of that, as found by the panel of top neonatal experts. Child I, the prosecution alleged murder by multiple attacks culminating in air introduced into the stomach and/or bloodstream, causing fatal collapse. The international panel of top neonatal experts found that this was a natural death caused by respiratory distress syndrome, chronic lung disease, which was complicated by Stenotrophomonas maltophilia infection, likely preventable. Child J, the prosecution alleged attempted murder by deliberate harm but no specific mechanism was identified, initially accusing Lucy Letby of shoving an implement down the infant's throat, but backing away from that theory when they couldn't find the right implement that was supposedly used. The International Panel of Top Neonatal Experts found natural collapse that was caused by deterioration due to sepsis. There was no evidence of airway obstruction. Child K. The prosecution alleged attempted murder by deliberately dislodged breathing tube, endotracheal tube, of an extremely premature baby. The International Panel of Top Neonatal Experts found that this was a natural collapse with no malicious cause identified. The deterioration was attributed to natural disease processes and poor medical care. Child L. The prosecution alleged attempted murder by insulin poisoning. Lucy was acquitted of this charge. The International Panel of Top Neonatal Experts found a natural collapse caused by persistent hypoglycemia explained by clinical condition and treatment, not exogenous insulin. Child M. The prosecution alleged attempted murder by air embolism. Lucy was acquitted in this case. The International Panel of Top Neonatal Experts found a natural collapse caused by apnea from sepsis or a prominent eustachian valve with suboptimal resuscitation. Child N. The prosecution alleged attempted murder by trauma to the throat during an attempted intubation and additional alleged air embolism, just to throw that on top, I guess. The International Panel of Top Neonatal Experts found a natural collapse caused by sepsis, no evidence of malicious airway obstruction, and no tool to do so. Child O. The prosecution alleged murder by injected air, overfeeding with milk, and inflicted traumatic liver injury. The International Panel of Top Neonatal Experts found that it was a natural death with no malicious cause identified. The deterioration of the infant was attributed to natural disease processes, injury during birth, and poor medical care. Child P. The prosecution alleged murder by injected air, overfeeding with milk, and dislodging the breathing tube. The International Panel of Top Neonatal Experts found natural death caused by pneumothorax that was suboptimally managed. Child Q. The prosecution alleged attempted murder by introduced liquid and possibly air through the feeding tube. The jury reached no verdict. The International Panel of Top Neonatal Experts found this was a natural collapse with no malicious cause identified. The deterioration was attributed to natural disease processes and poor medical care. So the International Panel of Top Neonatal Experts that provided all of the information above was Dr. Shu Li, Dr. Nina Modi, Dr. Eric Eichenwald, Dr. Helmut Hummler, Dr. Tetsuya Isayama, Dr. Joanne Langley, Dr. Mikhail Norman, Sandra Moore, RN, Dr. Bruno Piedboeuf, Dr. Prakash Shah, Dr. Nalini Singhal, Dr. Eric Skarsgård, and Dr. Ann Stark. The prosecution witnesses, there was really only one. Some of them came a couple of days, but there was really one main expert witness who called in all of the others. They all rubber stamped his work, but I will list them anyway, just to be polite. We've got Dr. Dowie Evans, Dr. Sandy Bowen, Professor Peter Hindmarsh, who incidentally lost his medical license because he was in trouble with the medical board, Dr. Andreas Marnaritas, Professor Owen Arthurs, Professor Stavros Stavros, Professor Sally Kinsey, and Dr. Simon Kenny. For whatever reason, a narrative was built around Lucy. I think we all have ideas about what reasons there were, and I'm going to go into those in my next videos in this series. But I thought it would be helpful for those who are on my level, which is a level of very limited medical understanding, to just hear those causes side by side. First, the ones she was convicted of, and then next, the real reasons that these poor babies died and that these poor families lost their infants. And mainly, sadly, it was poor medical care on the part of the doctors, along with natural processes that happen and that are horrible, but that have nothing to do with Lucy Letby. Lucy Letby is an innocent woman and needs to be exonerated now.